Oh my god, Decosmic is now ranked #1 on Google. So if you search Decosmic on Google like this, you will see the Google search results, and guess what? Decosmic is now #1 on Google. 2 weeks ago, Decosmic was still in like the 4th or 5th spot. Now it has rose to #1. I gotta say that the SEO for next.js is amazing.
So for the past few videos, I've been using ChatGPT to generate my description, the timestamps, and the hashtags. And the workflow is something like this. I set an instruction to generate the keywords and the description for this YouTube video, and then I paste in the full transcript here that I got from CapCut, and pretty much generate the descriptions, the timestamps, and the text here. But it will always generate the text like this in like a list format, but I want it to be like comma separated, so I have to keep telling it to make it comma separated, and it will output it like this. So I was thinking if I could make a tool that will always produce the same output that I want in a consistent format that will always be the same for each generation. All I have to do is just to put in the input, which in this case is the subtitle file here, and it will always output the exact description and text in that exact format that I need. And I also use it to repurpose my YouTube content into other platforms like Twitter, which in this case generates a list of threads that I can use. And I'm also planning to do it for LinkedIn and maybe some blog posts as well. And it makes it so simple, I just have to copy and paste. But what if I could make it even simpler? So I recently came upon this tool that's quite similar to what I'm looking for. So they have a bunch of actions here where you can choose which one you want to use. So if you click on it, there's this very simple interface here where you just paste in the transcript, and then you run it, it will just simply output the Twitter thread. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And what if we could build that exact feature and incorporate it into Decosmic and perhaps make a new button here? Maybe I was thinking of calling it actions or maybe clips. And we'll have a very integrated system for making custom AIs. Alright, so the plan today is simple. We are going to build an actions or /clips feature. So basically, there will be an input and it will produce an output. But this is where the configuration comes in, at the output part. So in between the input and output, there'll be some AI processing, which will process on the input to produce the output. And how this processing will work is to be configured when the clip is created. There are certain things that need to be configured, such as providing examples of the input and the output and the format that they want the output to be, which will technically fall under the examples as well. The example will technically show what the format should be for the output already. From this also, we can do some pattern extraction, and pretty much the AI will receive an input and always produce an output based on the behavior that it has been pre-configured when the action or /clip has been created. So pretty simple. The user will have like a page of different clips and actions. Maybe you can set up like a marketplace for this, for people to share their clips. Once you click on one of them, you will have a page where you can put in your input and it will produce an output like this. This feature overall looks quite simple actually, and I believe we can implement it in less than a day, if not maybe at most 2 days. And I really needed this feature to be built because I've been doing so much repetitive work using ChatGPT, having to force it to output a certain format that it doesn't follow. If you use the chat history, I believe it doesn't take the entire chat history for the response. It only takes in the most recent messages to form its response. If you set the format in like the first few messages, it doesn't know that you are supposed to format it in a certain way that you want. So I received an interesting comment from my Twitter DMs, and he said I should pick a niche for my startup rather than having a general purpose platform for anyone that can use. I did think about it a little bit. Because nowadays, it's all about niche, not just in startups, but also making content. You need to have a niche in a certain area or a certain field that you are interested in. And it's an interesting question, but at this stage, I'm still not exactly sure what Decosmic should be. I
I didn't even open the cap. I'm still not exactly sure who Decosmic is for, because technically I am building it for myself, and I was thinking if we could target small startups to build their own internal knowledge management system, or building a custom bot for their website. And it's not easy because I'm using it personally as well. But if I'm targeting businesses as well, then it's, am I doing it for individuals or am I targeting businesses? That is where the conflict comes in.
So I've been thinking about the niche for Decosmic for a while already, and it's been difficult to decide what is exactly the target audience, because initially I built Decosmic to solve my own problem, which is to automate the study routine, being able to automatically generate notes from my lectures, create test questions on the fly whenever I am, and being able to find where my knowledge gaps are. That was the initial goal of Decosmic. But it has shifted a little bit because it's difficult to target students. So I've shifted it a little bit to a second version, which is for individuals like you and startups to create their own custom AI based on the internal knowledge that they have, such as their lecture notes for students, or whether it's a company internal knowledge database, and it can be a meeting minutes, SOPs, standard procedures, guidelines, documentation, and anything that's private to them. Uploading these files to Decosmic will remain private in the Decosmic cloud. You have this very great set of tools to make finding information across so many data sources seamlessly, and you can find anything that you need in just basically seconds. So far the first and second version has been all for internal usage, where you plug in your data from anywhere that you have, and you can use it internally with your team. So for the third version, we are expanding the scope even more by allowing users to create their own chatbots, which can allow users outside of the team that is in Decosmic to consume the information as well, like you would within Decosmic. So we are basically opening it up a little bit and having more ways to consume Decosmic. This is a platform to digest data and information from any data source, combine it to a central warehouse, and being able to consume this information, find information easily from anywhere that you want, whether it's internal use, private use, or you want to let your customers use it. We are going towards that direction. So in terms of what niche Decosmic is, I would say at this stage we are targeting startups. We are also targeting individuals. So if we were to pick a specific niche, let's say maybe in the finance field or maybe in healthcare, these are a bit difficult because we would have to custom tune this to a very specific need. You need a very deep level understanding of this niche that you are looking to fill. So right now we are like a very general platform for anyone to build their own custom AIs, just like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini is. We are building a platform that suits anyone who wants to use AI in their workflows and make finding information much easier. So that you see ChatGPT, they have a free plan for anyone to use it. You see, for the free plan, it will be for anyone to use. There is no specific age group or demographic that they are targeting, so it's very general and generic. In terms of targeting startups and companies, you have a ChatGPT Teams plan where you pay by the number of seats and you can get a private instance of the ChatGPT where you can share the same workspace of your chat with the other teammates of your team. At this point, we don't really have a solid niche per se, because you really have to be really good at that certain niche, be able to perform well in that niche in the first place. So more towards a open and general platform for anyone to build custom AIs, being able to build a custom AI and configure the preset, able to keep reusing the same set of instructions without having to reconfigure it again. Having the AI very good at the information that I need.
I've done up the APIs for the actions feature already, and it includes APIs like creating the action, calling the action. I thought maybe you could extend this further to allow developers to call their actions as well. So I added an API to regenerate the key, and I thought we could extend this further by making use of what Decosmic is good at and making use of the knowledge base to give each action a list of knowledge that it has access to, and it will always use that set of knowledge to perform its response. And because my backend is built in .NET, but my front end
It's built in TypeScript. I'm using next.js.
so usually I'll build the backend first before building the front end. So what I'll usually do is copy the class from the backend and I'll put it in Copilot. So I've asked it to convert this C# class into TypeScript interface, and it will pretty much just generate everything that I need to put into my type file on the front end. Alright, I was just doing some work on my Mac and I realized that whenever I'm using my Mac from the Mac itself, it's significantly slower than if I were to plug it into a monitor like this, and it will be so much faster. Everything just seems so much faster and snappier. I can open windows faster, I can navigate around quicker, and everything just seems so much faster when I just connect my Mac to a monitor. I just don't understand why, when it's technically just a external display and it shouldn't affect the performance. Is this just a problem with my Mac, or is anyone else experiencing this issue as well? Done some groundwork for the actions already, and so now you can create a new action and it will go to the action page where you can configure the action. Side quest. I decided to migrate the Postgres database into a different database context. So for context, I'm using Next.js 14 as my front end and .NET 8 as my backend. And I'm also using two databases. One is MySQL and the other one is Postgres. I'm using MySQL for pretty much the entire system, and for Postgres, I'm using it to store documents and doing vector search. So previously, I was only using DB context for only MySQL, but I managed to get two different database contexts to work within one .NET application. So now every time I run a migrate command, I need to specify which DB context to use. Rather than having one, it will auto-detect which one to use. Look at how clean the code is. I can retrieve the document by simply calling it like this. This service file was so long before this because I was previously using the native Postgres library to interface with the database. So it comes with raw SQL statement like this, but it uses parameterized statements where we inject the different parameters into the query here. So this whole chunk here, it's equivalent to this one line code here. That is insane. I've pretty much converted this 1000 line file into a 700 line file. The code is so much more readable now. So with this change, I also decided to add a similarity score between different files that were used for a response in a chat message with Decosmic. So now if we ask a question to Decosmic, it will return the response as well as a bunch of references. So we can click on the different file references and it will actually show how similar is this chunk of information found in the files relating to the question that I asked. So in this case, 50% similarity to what I asked, and it's retrieving that and it's providing Decosmic to form its response using all these files. And this is on the live production system, and it will show the different files that we use for the response. But if we hover over, it will just show a short message of what the content is in the file itself. But now it's a lot better. We can not only see the score, the file name, but we can also see the entire chunk that was used and passed to Decosmic for reference to form its response here. So it gives the user here a lot more transparency of what is being used behind the response, and partially how the AI is reasoning here and how it got to its response. So I was thinking if we could implement a minimum score check to make sure that the user's message is highly similar to what is found in the files. I was thinking maybe about 80 or 90% is a good range, but so far I've not seen a similarity score above 50%. I'm not too sure how we can fix that, but if I copy and paste the entire chunk into as a chat message, it will return 100% similarity because it's exactly the same as the chunk, right? So right now I'm still exploring how we can implement this, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, I finished most of the foundation for the actions feature already. I decided to call it actions, and I've already finished all of the foundation that is required for this actions feature to be running. If not, most of it is already finished. So this is the final form of how the actions feature will be like. I'll go ahead and create a new action here. And once we click on that, we will have to configure the action first before we can use it. So let's say we want to do a video transcript and convert it into a Twitter thread, and then we can save that. So this is now an action to convert a YouTube video transcript into a Twitter thread. And then if we want to fine tune the action to make the output more consistent and Decosmic know what is exactly the output that you want. You can provide examples here. So if you click on that, we can provide examples of an input and an output, or if you only have an output, you can select the output only and provide the output here. For this case, I will provide the transcript for my Pocket 3 video here, as well as the sample output that I got from ChatGPT, which is a clear example of how a thread should look like, and it will utilize this example to produce the output. You can go ahead and click save. So now that we have provided the examples, we can extract certain patterns that the examples have, such as the voice, tone, style, personality, and the overall structure of the examples that you gave. So you can go ahead and click on the extract patterns button here to extract the patterns from the examples. So if we have not provided any examples, it won't be able to extract any patterns from this. If we go ahead and click on that, it will take a few seconds to extract the patterns, and here we go. These are the patterns that it has extracted here, and on top of that, we can utilize what Decosmic is great at by supplying additional knowledge and information to this action to better produce an output that is grounded on the knowledge that you have. If for certain use cases you want to fine-tune the action, force it to use certain set of data sets that you have, and you can select them here. Say I have the Bitcoin documentation uploaded here, so I can check on that and click save. So now every time I run the action, it will utilize the Bitcoin documentation to produce the output in the Twitter thread if it is relevant. Now the best part of the actions is that you can call this outside of Decosmic by using your API key here. So I've already set up the API request here to the endpoint, as well as the API key in the header here. So if we were to, let's say, put in a transcript here, it will output to a Twitter thread. In this case, even if we were to use certain words or certain topics, like putting in Bitcoin here, and actually send the request using this topic that we chose here, also works even with just a single word here. And there we go. This is the output, the Twitter thread in a single string. So you can pretty much utilize any action that you create on Decosmic from anywhere that you want using the REST API that we have provided. So if we go back to the action here, you can see the interface to input our video transcript, which will turn it into a Twitter thread. So in this portion below here, it stores a history of all the previous runs that has been run on this action so far. So even if you call it from an API, you also save the run into the history here along with the input and the output. You can see it's better formatted here with nicer line breaks. It's easier to read than the API call. So let's say I have a video transcript from my previous video, which is the reality of building a tech startup video. I have the entire transcript here. Let's say we run it. All right, there we go. We have the entire transcript converted into a Twitter thread here with all the different emojis, and immediately we will see the run that we just executed stored in the history right below here.
OpenAI just announced their latest model, the GPT-4o Mini, which is significantly cheaper for an incredible level of performance. This is their announcement here, and in terms of cost, it's 15 cents for a million input tokens and 60 cents for a million output tokens. That is extremely cheap. So recently a lot of smaller models have dropped, like the Claude Haiku model, which supports vision, and it's by far the cheapest, and that's why we were using it for Decosmic as our standard flagship model. But today we are going to change that and replace our standard flagship model on Decosmic to GPT-4o Mini. So this is the chat interface. We have the standard model as well as the super model. So the standard model used to be Claude's Haiku model, and the super used to be GPT-4o. Now that GPT-4o Mini is so cheap and it also supports vision, which previously OpenAI didn't have any models that were so cheap that could support vision, now I have decided to replace the standard model with GPT-4o Mini and replacing the super model to Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet model. And for the actions feature that I just shipped, it's using 4o Mini as well. So I've already created a blog post for this on Decosmic's website, and I will publish it soon. But by the time this video comes out, the update is live already along with the actions feature. So previously we have a boost model as well, which was running the Anthropic's Claude 3 Sonnet model, and that model was underutilized because of the cost difference from the boost and the super. It's pretty much just a 1 credit difference, so there wasn't really any reason to use the boost, so nobody used that, and I just decided to drop that completely. So we now only have standard and super, but if anyone wants to use the other models, it is still available under custom here. So if you click on that, we can see all the different models here, and we can still use 175 models on Decosmic here.